And they're confirming that Bukayo Saka has just left the England squad, and that's through injury. I mean, this will be huge disappointing news for Arsenal fans as well, but this is what the statement has read so far from England. They say Bukayo Saka has left the England camp and returned to his club for continued rehabilitation. The Arsenal forward reported to St George's Park with an injury and has been unable to participate in training. No further replacements are planned as the 25-man England squad continue their preparation for the forthcoming internationals with Brazil and Belgium. So that's Bukayo Saka out. Remember, they have that huge game against Manchester City live for you on Sky Sports on March the 31st. So that will be incredibly disappointing if they can't have one of their star talents starting up front for them, Arsenal. So they will look to get that injury corrected very quickly indeed. But just to confirm that breaking news, Bukayo Saka has left the England camp due to injury.
Right then, lads, welcome back to Cossy Arsenal Podcast. My name is Cossy. Welcome back to a brand new video. That is the worst piece of news I've received all week, and that is the worst piece of news you can receive as an Arsenal fan right now, with 10 games to go. And those 10 games are against some of the best sides in the Premier League. And we have Bayern home and away, and we have Manchester City and Real Madrid after that. And then you get to know that Gabriel Magalhaes is injured. I don't care whether that is a trick, but also Bukayo Saka has picked up an injury. And this injury was picked up during his time at Arsenal before joining up with the England national team. He has not been able to train. He did stay indoors, and he did have his own, isolation, center with Harry Kane, but that has not been enough. He has been called back and is back at Arsenal for further rehabilitation. Now, again, there are so many theories flying around about this, but trust me, this is a bad story for Arsenal, and this is a very bad time for us to concede such a story and for us to concede such an injury for such an important player. Just to put that, put for you into perspective, Bukayo Saka this season has had the most goal involvements for Arsenal in all competitions, but he's been our most important attacker at Arsenal with more goals than any other player in the side. That's around 11. And with more assists than any other player in the side, that's around 8. So Bukayo Saka is Arsenal's heartbeat. And when you think about, delivering, when you think about this Arsenal side flying, then there are not so many players that have been consistent at the level of Bukayo Saka. Now, he's picked up this injury, and we do not know the details yet. We don't know whether he's going to be out for a long time or a short period of time. Of course, Sky Sports confirming that he's been called for further rehabilitation, and this doesn't really look very, very good for Arsenal. So let's get into it. Number one, I think the theory that Saka has been called back because Arsenal are trying to protect him, I think that is actually very true. But I don't think we're trying to protect him from not picking up an injury. We're actually protecting him from an injury he has carried for quite some time. Now, I don't know whether the injury has been exacerbated in the recent, in his recent games and encounters with, different, opponents. We are yet to find out that. But this, for me, is an injury that he has carried for quite some time. And I think we've talked about it before, that he has had that little bit of a nagging, Achilles injury that has been there for quite some time. And I think it was Sammy Makbul from the Daily Mail in the last international break who said that Saka is really playing with something, although the Arsenal team think he is okay. And he has also told the manager that he is okay and is ready to go. So for me, I'm going to say this, first and foremost. If Saka is injured, that could be game over for Arsenal season, and that could be the end of our campaign. And I understand there are times where he really irritates me. There are times where I really want him to be substituted off the pitch. He's not doing very, very well. But we've got to understand, he is Arsenal's star boy. He is Arsenal's starman, and not a starman in terms of attracting the crowds and doing all the trickery, because at times he doesn't even do the trickery, especially this campaign. But he's Arsenal's starman in terms of providing for the numbers. And when we did a video on this channel comparing him to Phil Foden, I said it that in terms of the eye test and in terms of him and Phil Foden, I'll check Phil Foden in terms of the eye test and entertainment. But when it comes to the numbers and delivering and how effective he is in this Arsenal system and in that England system, I'll take Bukayo Saka every day. Numbers, he is up there. He's a very reliable player, durable as well. Doesn't pick up those injuries, and even when he does pick up those injuries, he actually still plays with them. So that is what Arsenal get in Bukayo Saka, right? A durable guy. And a guy that plays 90 minutes every single day and delivers on every single daily basis. That is what we get. And that is what we're going to be losing in this Arsenal side. We are not having any debate about who can replace him, because there is no player who can effectively replace Bukayo Saka. I don't think Gabriel Jesus is that brave to play out on the wings and give you the output that Saka does, getting into the penalty area, shooting, the exchange and the partnership with Martin Odegaard and Benjamin White. That right-hand side only can win Arsenal the Premier League. That right-hand side only can win Arsenal the Champions League. And we have seen a lot of our goals come from the right-hand side. Saka, Ben White and Odegaard. They are absolutely freaking insane when it comes to producing the numbers. So that is number one. I don't see a replacement for Saka in this team. And maybe Reece Nelson, that is why Mikel Arteta gave him a new deal. That's why Mikel Arteta decided to keep him. Maybe Fabio Vieira. But let's look at all three. Gabriel Jesus is a lovely winger, in my opinion, and I think he would really be fit to play in that position. But my problem with Gabriel is Jesus. He doesn't have the courage to take on players like Saka does and eventually give you effective output. Now, he's very talented, and one or two occasions he will actually take on some players. But when you look at Saka and what he does out wide, he's not afraid of anyone. Whether you're Virgil van Dijk, Konate, Ruben Dias, Nathan Ake, and at times he's beaten in those scenarios, and it doesn't really look good on him. Like when he played against Dan Ban, and he absolutely threw him into non-existence. But the truth is, Saka is unique from players like Gabriel Jesus, right? His numbers and his productivity are unmatched in this Arsenal side. So you could have Gabriel Jesus play out there, but you cannot have him have his numbers. And that's why I've titled this video, The Worst News Arsenal Could Actually Receive. Because he's irreplaceable, guys. You cannot replace him. You can't think about any other player that replaces this guy. With Fabio Vieira, I'm quite intrigued to see what Mikel Arteta really does with Fabio when he comes back to full fitness. Because in this season, we have seen him play in that Bukayo Saka position, and he's actually, fared on really well. But with Fabio Vieira, I think he wants to be Odegaard, and he wants to be Mesut Ozil, and he wants to be Bruno Fernandes. He wants to be in the middle of the park, in the middle of the goal, trying to influence things from that, from that zone. Right? I don't think he wants to play out wide. I think he really does play out very well, out wide very well, especially, when he gets the space to do his work. But I still think he is a player that would prefer a free role, and he's a player that would prefer to play as a number 10 as opposed to Saka. And even when we play Fabio Vieira there, we have to change a lot of things. He doesn't have the pace, and he doesn't have the 1v1 ability to beat his man on, like 3 times out of 5. I don't think he has. So what that means that if you play Fabio Vieira instead of Saka, he's going to be a little bit more conservative. He's going to receive the ball out wide, but he's always going to keep playing it back into Ben White and playing it back into Martin Odegaard. And he's not going to make those interesting runs that Saka makes past the last defender, and you just see him pop up in the penalty area and you don't know how he has done that. And of course, it comes from that partnership that he has with Martin Odegaard and the understanding as well. So Fabio Vieira, for me, doesn't meet the qualifications. Jesus doesn't meet the qualifications. And with Reece Nelson, although Reece has showed us that he's got those glimpses of quality, he does too much. And that is one thing Saka doesn't do. And that's one thing I love about Saka. He doesn't do too much. Now, the question would be, because what do you mean that he does too much? And what is the problem with doing too much? My problem with players that actually do too much is that at times you fail to find their productivity levels. You fail to quantify their output. And that's Chris Nelson. He can be good, but can you actually quantify his productivity levels? Can you actually quantify his output, right? Can you guarantee that when Chris Nelson plays, yes, he will be exciting and he is very, very lively and he will pick up the ball in deeper areas and he will try to fight for the ball and he's got the trickery, but can he give you 10 goals and 15 assists in a single campaign like Saka? No. Can he give you 8 goals and 8 assists in a single campaign like maybe Edin Nketiah? I also don't think he's capable of that, right? And I'm interested to see where he goes after this Arsenal journey ends. I want to see him playing for a side that doesn't have a lot of pressure. I want to see what he's going to be like. So when you look at all the 3 replacements, everyone seems good, but not good enough to replace this guy, right? Everyone seems good, but not good enough to replace Bukayo Saka. And that is the problem that Arsenal have. And that's why this video is titled, The Worst News Arsenal Can Ever Have. It's unimaginable, right? It's really unimaginable. Now, I've been looking at the conversations online and the discourse online, and it shows that many people are really confident about these injuries, that they're being orchestrated by Mikel Arteta, Edu, and the technical team at Arsenal. If that is the case, well done. I mean, that's a very, very good card, right? So Gabriel Magalhaes, call him back. Saka, call him back. It's just a matter of, managing them. It's a matter of trying to manage your players so that they don't pick up injuries. But if that was the case, Odegaard will be called back. If that was the case, we would have called up William Saliba because it was his injury that cost us last season. If that was the case, maybe, I don't know, we could have called back every single player that has actually gone out to play for their national team. So that's where I'm skeptical about the school of thought and the theory line that Arsenal are calling back these players just to maintain them. The England national team statement makes it very clear that Saka has not trained actually ever since he got there. So why, right? Maybe if he doesn't appear in match days, that is okay. But we also know that Southgate and his team have played Saka under injury, and they have played him in games that have not been important, and they have played him in games that didn't actually matter. So you're saying they will leave him out for the preparations of the Euros, but they will play him in a game against San Marino where he scores a hat-trick and the game doesn't really have an impact? It doesn't make any sense. So I still think that school of theory and that line of thought is a little bit crooked and very, very simplistic. Where is the scare for Arsenal? Because this video is all about that. Where is the scare for us, right? Why is this the worst news that we could ever receive right now? Our next 10 games in the Premier League are season defining. But each and every single minute in the Premier League that we play and we step on the pitch is season defining. If Arsenal play Man City and we lose that game, season defining. If we go and play Aston Villa and Tottenham and we don't pick up 3 points in each of the 2 games, season defining. So when you don't have your best player, right? When you don't have the guy that guarantees you output, when you don't have the guy that can do it, can make it happen, regardless of the cost, regardless of the of how hard the task is, that makes me really afraid, right? That really makes me really afraid. And we could be laughing at a mini injury crisis. We could be talking and shrugging off, an injury crisis. What if Gabriel Magalhaes doesn't play against Manchester City? What will we say? What if Saka doesn't play against Manchester City? And maybe Gabriel Martinelli is not really fit enough to play against Manchester City, and so is Julian Timber, and so is Partey, and so is Tomiyasu. We could be facing an injury crisis that really doesn't look like a crisis, but it is a looming crisis, right? And that is my scare for me, for this Arsenal team, that you don't need injuries right now, and you don't need key player injuries right now. Like, if Kivia picked up an injury, with all due respect, I think Tomiyasu can come in and do a good job. If Ben White picks up an injury right now, Tomiyasu can come in and do a very good job. But when you lose Saka, when you lose Gabriel Magalhaes, it is going to be threatening and absolutely very, very scary. But anyway, I want to see how this develops as well. I don't want to rush into, Arsenal are done, our season is finished and game over, all that. I still think that there is time for us to find out the truth. But if it is true that we're suffering these injuries and they're not as simple and small that, like, we are insinuating, our season, Champions League and Premier League, could be over. And again, that goes back to Mikel Arteta's ability to rotate some of these players. It goes back to Mikel Arteta's ability to manage some of these injuries. And I'm aware Arsenal knew, right? And I'm really still surprised why he is injured, but he joins up with England and then he comes back without even training. I think Arsenal should have built, and by now we could have built a relationship, a rapport with the England national team that when we say player ABCD is unavailable, Saka is unavailable, Ben White is unavailable, maybe Rice is unavailable, we should have built that rapport at the level that they can trust us. But if they can't, and that's why you have to send them injured players and then recall them a couple of days later, it's a shame. But anyway, let's see what happens with this one. Saka has pulled out of the England national team preparations for the Euros, and it's cause of an injury. Let's see what happens.